Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
And now, the stories you may not see on TV. It's time for another episode of All Politics Are Local with your host, Barry D.
Just when you thought it was safe to listen to terrestrial radio again, here I come.
What's that supposed to mean?
Yeah, it means I'm your host, Barry D. From the 17th floor of the WCHE studios, located at 105 West Gay Street in Westchester, we're just 6 miles from the Exton Mall. Described by AI, Exton Square Mall, located in Exton, Pennsylvania, is a largely vacant, in quotes, dead mall with under 20% occupancy, with plans for redevelopment into a mixed-use town center. While Boscov's and some small scattered tenants remain open, I think there's still a Chick-fil-A there. Yum. Much of the property is experiencing decay and scheduled for future demolition. Yeah, the roof leak's pretty bad there. But you know what? You should get out there and give it a tour before it's a thing of the past. You can relive your memories from when you were a mall rat 30 years ago. It's a story you'll have to tell your friends the next time you see them. Another shameless plug for one of those neighboring businesses, even if it really sucks. Keeping me on the air today is the one and only Eric Clambera, the morning show host and producer of the show. When I asked him what his secret was to being such a great producer, here's what he said.
Chicks dig me because I rarely wear underwear, and when I do, it's usually something unusual.
It certainly is. Anyway, remember, this is a non-call-in show. I can't answer the phone because of the tight schedule. So if you do call in, sadly, there's going to be a lonely phone with a flashing strobe light that will fade off into the sunset without ever getting recognition. But feel free to call into that morning show. We would love to talk to you then. Today, I have the traditional Bud Light commercial. I've suspended my monologue, and instead I'm going to have an extended 5 minutes with Jack, and then a guest to talk about local township logic and spending, a subject I could talk about for days.
Oh, no, you don't.
Oh, yes, I do. And please, as always with the show, no gambling, betting, or wagering.
What's that supposed to mean?
Yeah, well, it means what it means. Just stick with me, okay? Just stick around. You're going to learn a whole bunch of new stuff. So, it's that time of the show where we head over to the TARDIS and go back in time, which is totally possible. And here is Doctor Who to explain why.
People assume that time is a strict progression of cause to effect, but actually, from a non-linear, non-subjective viewpoint, it's more like a big ball of wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey stuff.
Right. The real answer is we just go back into an archived recording of what was about a quarter century ago. And that takes us back into our memories to when the whining wasn't incessant like it is today. Well, except for that stupid show back in the late 80s called 30-something that was all about whining, like, what about my feelings? And after 4 seasons, the public had enough of that nonsense. But anyway, like a bad rash, that's back again. And it's like it's on steroids. But back in the 90s and 2000s, your feelings took a back seat to good old-fashioned humor, back when poking fun at places, people, and things were taken far more lightly. So let's go back to that simpler time, a more joyful time.
Bud Light presents Real Men of Genius.
Real Men of Genius.
Today we salute you, Mr. Apartment right by the L-Tracks guy.
Mr. Apartment right by the L-Tracks guy.
You asked your broker for a place that was close to public transportation. How does 3 feet sound?
Sounds kind of noisy.
It's the perfect apartment. 1 bedroom, 1 bath, and 150 tons of screeching steel passing by your window every 6 minutes.
Give or take a minute.
Of course, you'll eventually get used to the sound. 2 days before you move out.
He's moving near the airport.
So crack open an ice cold Bud Light, old resident of the rails, and wave to those commuters. Just remember to put some pants on first.
Mr. Apartment right by the L-Tracks guy.
Bud Light Beer, Anheuser-Busch, St. Louis, Missouri.
You know what? We're going to take a quick break because we're going to come back with 20 minutes with Jack.
Barry D is back with All Politics Are Local.
All right, let's head over to 20 Minutes with Jack. Good morning, Jack.
Very good morning to you, sir.
Hey, what's happening in the world of Jack these days?
Oh, it's a wonderful time of year. We always discuss this time of year. It's a little hot, it's a little cold, it's a little windy, it's a little rainy. We got everything going for us here in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, but you know what? Spring is around the corner. Oh, wait, we're in spring.
Hopefully we'll actually have a spring and not roll right into 90 degree and
I think so. It's going to get cold in a couple of days. It's going to be back down in the 50s and 60s. I just think it's a normal Chester County spring. I think that's it.
I think that's great. So, Gary or Barry, I wanted you know who you are.
That's right.
So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about, the 51st state that we were going to take on with Canada. But it made me think when I was thinking about that, whatever happened with the 52nd state that we were going to adopt?
You're talking about Greenland?
Greenland it was.
It's funny how the press stopped talking about Greenland altogether. Remember the Great Invasion they kept talking about and they built up, that the United States was going to invade Greenland and take it over. Like that would take, a minute and a half after watching what happened in Iran? That's
it might be quicker than it took Venezuela, right?
Yeah, right. That was 24 hours. That was all done. Yeah, they all shut up about that. The press stopped talking about it because all this angst was built up to make it sound like it was going to be some big invasion or something, when in fact, really, nothing happened at all. But I will tell you that what really wasn't reported in the news was all the allies that came to help out Greenland, right? They all supported them. I'll give you an example. Belgium, they sent an officer over to participate in this operation. The operation was called Operation Arctic Endurance, and it was meant to protect Greenland from the big bad United States and that crazy Donald Trump. Now, Denmark had 150 troops there already, so that was it. And they had some surveillance equipment. So it was all the stuff they normally do anyway, but that's what they had. Now, Estonia, they participated in the planning committee, so good for them. Finland sent 2 liaison officers over there, probably to make sure that the United States didn't get confused and go after Finland. France was a big participant. They sent 15 French military personnel. They were part of the Mountain Infantry Brigade. I don't know. What were they going to go hide in the mountains or something like that? But Macron was very serious about it. He sent 15 people over there, and they also sent the frigate Britannia over to join in the operation. I think they sent an Airbus and, I don't know, some baguettes or something like that. Germany said they'd send 15 Bundeswehr officers. Okay, you see this magic? It's the French sent 15 people. The German felt obligated. Iceland sent 2 members of the Icelandic Coast Guard. Most people confused the two countries. The Netherlands, they sent 2 members of the Netherlands Force. Now, these guys are powerhouses doing all this stuff. Norway, they sent 2 military personnel also. Slovenia deployed, are you seeing this? 2 military officers. Sweden sent an unknown number of army officers. Unknown. They want to keep that quiet because they really don't want to offend anybody. But I will tell you, the UK got very powerful because they were really mouthy about the whole thing. They sent 1 single military officer in there. Canada, the 51st state, said, we're cool. We're not really doing anything. There were more people that didn't participate in NATO than did participate in NATO. The funny one was Italy, where the defense minister Guido Crosetto likened the troop numbers involving the operation to the start of a joke. Like a walks into a bar joke, right? In the end, look, I'm only telling you all this for one reason. In the end, Donald Trump got everything he wanted. He wanted updated protection for the Western Hemisphere, and it all went through Greenland. And in the end, they were updating an agreement from 1951 between the United States and Denmark just to bring it up to speed, because we find too often our regulations are out of date and nobody does anything until it's too late and they go, well, there's no regulations on this. Sorry. Much like, I don't know, people are complaining about data centers now. Well, there is no zoning in place to protect them. Yes, you can have a data center, but you want distance and things like that. These people have never done that. Trump wanted to be ahead of the ball game on that, and every leader should do that for their country. Look, I'm not saying you have to be pro-Trump, anti-Trump, whatever. I'm just saying that the people have to be more proactive in cases like this. So that's it. So speaking of proactive, what's going on up in Canada? You were talking about something about Canada?
Well, you know, they're celebrating the 10th anniversary of a great law that they touted as very humanitarian. I don't know if anyone's heard of this. It's known as the MAID Act, or it's an official law, and it's effectively
everybody gets a maid like Rosie the robot.
No, it's not quite like
or?
that. It's another one of those acronyms. So this acronym is Medical Assistance in Dying.
Like Kevorkian?
Like Jack Kevorkian, Dr. Death. Dr. Jack Kevorkian.
Okay. Okay. So they allow people to die in what situations?
It was very narrow early on, but they seem to be opening it up to make more members available to participate in the program. As the last numbers of 2025, they killed 16,500 people. And maybe I'm using the term killed incorrectly. People were entered into the MAID program, so they were provided government-sanctioned medical assistance in dying because they couldn't do it themselves, so they made it a lot easier for them to do it.
Yeah, there's got to be requirements to do it, though. I mean, they got to have a checklist of things, right?
Well, you would think, but that is a moving goalpost, Barry. It seems like they had staunch guidelines early on, but next year they're opening that up even wider for people with mental diseases, that they'll be able to participate. And of course, the other stringency is that no one under the age of 18, and the most stringent part of it is that no Americans can participate. They make that very clear in their law.
Oh, they don't want death tourism, suicide tourism. Where you go? Listen, I've been to Canada in the winter. It is a place to go die. It's so cold. I want nothing to do with it. Oh my God. Just the thought of going up there just kill me now. The guy's like, listen, I can't do it now, but we got an appointment at 2 that's open. Holy smokes.
And there's varying stories on this. Of course, both sides of the aisle. You know, there's a lot of stories of people that have diseases that are curable, and when they go to visit the doctor says, well, you know, your condition is, we'd like for you to consider entering into the MAID program. And the patient says, well, wait a minute. I'd like to get a second opinion. Well, of course, they can't get a second opinion in Canada, so they go down to the United States, just over the bridge, and miraculously they're cured shortly thereafter.
You know, it's funny you say that because they talk about the social program. Canada for many years was upheld as the ultimate in social medicine. And interestingly, at the same time, I read many reports that said that by September, they're shutting down wings because they've run out of money, wings of hospitals. Now, this is for the major stuff, like if you need a heart transplant or something like that. Look, if you need a boil lance and all that, you're fine. It's when you get to the difficult stuff. I had a friend that lived in, he was a British expat. He lived in France. Now, he bragged about it, and he had some serious issues, and they were always really good to him. But he didn't need anything major. But, you know, he was constantly having to go to the hospital for things. And the French one was good, but he told me it was not as good as it used to be because it only works when everybody is participating. Therefore, the money is coming in. And in France, they have a large contingent of people that are not participating now. They're coming
in. The
Ponzi
scheme doesn't work if people don't keep coming in. The pyramid scheme fails.
Right. Well, what's happening is they're having immigrants come in from other countries that don't do any work, and they just sit around on the dole. And so now they're taking and not giving. It's all participatory. You have to do that. So, and this is, by the way, the first step in socialism to communism, right? Once you get the free stuff, why do you need the job? And then not enough people do the jobs. So then the government has to take over and go, oh, yeah, Susie, you want to be a ballerina? You're going to go work in the battery factory.
Yeah.
And that's how it goes. Socialism is just a necessary evil to get to communism. And it lures people in. It's very frightening that it does that. But anyway, back to MAID.
I tell you, Barry, I think you've had people, I've had people, I personally experienced chronic pain. I can understand people that get into a position to where they may want to die, and this is a little terrifying because, like you, I get a little concerned of who's the gatekeeper on this. And already in 10 short years, they've changed and add some nuances to where there's open for interpretation of who is eligible for these things.
Well, this is interesting, Jack, because now we're going back a number of years, probably 20 years ago for you, but you were in chronic pain for a long, long time. Tell the audience about that.
Well, it was L4, L5, and I'm sure many people suffer with that, and it was a constant, every second of the day type pain to where putting on a sock was a struggle. But luckily, I had a very good orthopedic surgeon, and through the surgery and some physical therapy, I was able to get past it.
But, dude, you were chewing down Vicodin like it was candy for a while.
Yes, they were a Pez dispenser.
Yeah, right. And so there were times you had even said, I want to just die because of the pain you had. I mean, you were in constant pain all the time. Now, what happens with somebody when they're like, listen, I can't even see, I hurt so bad? What's it take? They have to have what? I'm sure they don't allow one physician to make this decision, right? It takes a couple of them to say, this guy's in bad shape.
It's very vague there. It says 2 medical professionals. So I don't know if that's an orthodontist and a phlebotomist. I don't know what it takes.
Don't you just take blood? Yeah, but you look pretty bad to me.
I see you have the badge and the coat and everything. You look pretty medical to me.
Oh, my God. So now the mental thing, that's a sunsetting exclusion, isn't it?
Yes, that ends in March of next year.
And so if it's not brought up again and people got mental issues, that could be a problem, right? Because all of a sudden they're like, yeah, they said they were going to die. I mean, look, I know it has to be done in writing, okay? You have to be able to, that's one of the things. But I'm seeing here that there are times, I can tell you right now, it's talking about this where it says, can one make an advance request for assisted dying? And the answer is no. But then what's really interesting, it says, because they have to have a final consent that has to be written, but then it says that there's an issue in here for the safeguard. You can waive that under certain conditions. So if it's somebody that's got dementia, all of a sudden they go, yeah, Dad said he wanted to die.
Yeah, you heard him say that, right?
Look, you and I kind of disagree on this stuff. Let me tell the audience right now. Jack and I kind of disagree because my mother, when she was suffering from dementia, before she got to the point where she was in aphasia and couldn't even speak to us, she had told me several times, Barry, I just want to die. And I had to lie to her. And it was the hardest thing I ever did in my life. And I said, Mom, you're going to be okay. You'll be fine. Well, she wasn't fine. She got to the point you had to crane her onto a toilet because she couldn't do anything. And it was humiliating. And I wished that she would pass every day. I love my mom so much. But I wish that because I knew that she didn't want to be this way. She was a proud woman, and that's what she wanted. I probably would have. Look, I have a hard time taking my cat in to have it put down. I don't want to be the Grim Reaper. But my mother was this strong Pollock that when you looked at her, she was as healthy as she was when she was 40 years old. But her brain had given out and she'd gotten dementia. She wanted to be gone. Because her body was so strong, she outlived hospice by over double. Supposed to be gone 6 months. She lasted more than 12 months after that. I wish there had been a way to do it, but at the same time, I wouldn't want to be the guy to pick that. And now your point is more cut and dried, that it'll be taken advantage of. It'll be abused, and it'll be abused by the government. Isn't that it? Is that what you? That's kind of what you said to me.
And certainly, we slightly disagree. Of course, from a humanitarian point of view, no one wants to see a loved one suffer. Nobody wants to do that. And like you said, at the same time, we certainly don't want to be the one to make that ultimate decision because that isn't our decision. That is our Creator's decision of when the last breath takes place. And so there's conflict there. My biggest concern is, I think when the government gets involved, they start weighing other factors that certainly aren't humanitarian. They're not. You know, how does this person contribute to society? Do they have family members? Are they difficult? Because sometimes people in great pain become very difficult to contend with. I can speak to that because constant pain changes a human being. It changes their demeanor, their attitudes towards everything. Their outlook becomes very dark.
Right.
So I can understand that, but I don't think something cold as a government body making a decision and checking boxes is, it certainly cheapens life. That's what I think.
Yeah, I totally understand that. And again, like, I had an uncle that died from spinal cancer, and every minute of his life, other than when he was out because he had a morphine drip, he would wake up and his family surrounded him. My cousins were all around him, and he'd wake up and they'd tell me, he'd go, "Damn it, I'm still here." He'd wake up and see him all that. He was like begging. He just wanted to go. And I totally get that, man. I just totally get it. And if it's their choice, it's their choice. But then the question comes down to, what happens when the laws change? And people aren't really people. They're pigs. They're subhuman. And you know what? You need to go into the showers. Don't worry about that almond smell. You just need to get a shower. How come nobody's coming out of that shower? What's this can that says Zyklon B, 5 times stronger than Zyklon A? Yeah. What happens when all that gets manipulated? I find that frightening, deathly frightening.
Yes. And history has a way of repeating itself. And to me, this is just, it's a government veil to get rid of people that may be less desirable in their eyes. That thought, again, is terrifying, giving that type of power. And I don't know if it takes a note from a family member. There could be disagreements in a family to where, hey, we never really liked Dad that much. We'll sign that. Yeah, he definitely said he wanted to die. You know, he withheld, chocolate chip cookies from me when I was 8.
Right. Oh, and you don't know, and some people hold things forever. Listen, we're getting towards this extended section of 5 Minutes with Jack. Do you think this could lead to something from the movie Soylent Green?
I encourage people to read the book or see the movie with Charlton Heston, Soylent Green.
Soylent Green. And Soylent Green was a food, because food had become so expensive in the future that they made a food product. It was a processed food called Soylent Green. I remember strawberry preserves were $75 a jar. Well, they're almost that now, thanks to the last few years. But, Jack, what was it when Charlton Heston got into the Soylent Green factory at the end of the movie? What did he say?
So the last thing that Charlton Heston said as they take him away is that Soylent Green are people.
They were using humans to make food for humans.
That's correct.
Some of this stuff is so scary that you often wonder, could it become the future? And some of that stuff's played out, and I've talked about this before, 1984, cameras everywhere, things like that. It's here now. So let that be a lesson to everybody. For what sounds like it's humanitarian, in the end, could be your own death sentence.
That's a very powerful last statement to the segment, Barry.
Jack, we'll talk next week.
All right, my friend. Thanks.
We'll see you.
Let's take a break and come back with my guest today talking about local municipality decision-making.
Barry D is back with All Politics Are Local.
Today, I would like to welcome Shane Cloyd, a local resident that I have seen in action at a couple East Fallowfield Township meetings. He was a writing candidate, as I remember, for supervisor in that township like a year ago. He and I were speaking one day, and he said, Barry, the things I could tell you about the way municipalities spend money. And I said, well, I'm kind of familiar with that, but hell, why don't you come on the show and give the public some of your observations on your own township. There you go. So while he couldn't be in studio today because of his current workload, he's with us by an alternate solution as a calling guest. Shane, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Barry. Appreciate you having me.
Hey, why don't you give the listeners a little background on who you are, where you're at, and what your profession is?
I am Shane Cloyd, obviously here in East Fallowfield Township. I've been here for a little over 5 years. I grew up in Kentucky. I ended up going to Milton Hershey School and then Lehigh and Drexel. I've worked for everybody.
You're a real failure, huh?
Yeah.
Milton Hershey, Lehigh, and wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, I tell people I have
Drexel.
2 engineering degrees and 2 master's degrees. I don't tell them one of the engineering degrees is one of the master's degrees, but if they ask,
whatever.
Yeah, semantics at that point.
College, best 3 days of my life.
I started working at Ernst & Young in Manhattan. I've also worked for Lockheed Martin, building fighter jets and intercontinental ballistic missiles. Lived in Texas for a few years to work on some of that stuff. Worked here in Coatesville at Sikorsky. And currently I work at Penske. I've been there for 10 years as a principal logistics engineer.
Got it.
In addition to that, that's just like my professional life. I also have a store called Hour.art in Coatesville, and a nonprofit called Steam Power.
Yeah, because you don't sleep, just like me. You got things going on.
I don't sleep much. Yeah, I enjoy when I get to, though.
Yeah, like my parents used to say, you sleep when you're dead. Do things that are good for the earth.
There's too much to do right now.
That's right. That's exactly it. And speaking of too much to do, so you're one of these guys that just kind of ruffles feathers in your home township. I've seen you in action, and you challenge the supervisors. You challenge the township manager, the zoning officers. You have poignant questions. You know what you're talking about, and you want people to answer things. You don't want things just being pushed off. You ran, was it as a write-in last year?
It was, yeah, and there was a whole kerfuffle about that and how to get on the ballot. Apparently, from what I was told, you cannot be on the ballot as a true independent. So independent is a party, but unaffiliated. Yeah. So if I'm not affiliated with a party, I can't be on the ballot. That's at least what I was told by Voter Services. I don't know how true that is, but I didn't want to run as a Democrat, but that was the only way you were going to win this election. But I think there are a lot of problems with both parties, and I just wanted to be unaffiliated, just stand on my platform and my principles, and hope it would go well. But I mean, people voted against their better interests in this past election cycle, and I'm sure they're going to do the same thing in the next election cycle, the local elections, every at the odd years.
Well, you have to remember what Winston Churchill once said: Americans will always do the right thing after all the other options have been exhausted.
That's definitely where we are.
So, I sympathize with you. I've seen it over and over again in campaigns, and the way people vote party over the actual political realm. They say, well, I like the Eagles, so I'm voting for the Eagles. Well, the Eagles string kittens up with piano wire. Just an example. Not saying they really do.
Yeah.
And
the biggest. Go ahead.
Yeah, and people don't care. That's my party. I'm sticking to it.
No, it's not. It's not. Well, they don't care. But the biggest thing we learned is they just don't know. They're not educated.
That's true.
I mean, they don't care. That is a function of them not caring, is they're not educated. But we definitely have a plan going into the November 2027 election. There's a supervisor seat open to educate more residents, because even when I was standing at the polls, the primaries and the general election, getting somebody to stop and talk to me for 5 seconds and giving them the hook, like, hey, do you know our township wants to build a new municipal building for X amount of dollars? And they're like, I had no idea. Like, are my taxes going to go up? Absolutely.
Of course
right?
They're
going to go up. And that gets people interested because, day to day, there's not a whole lot happening in the township. It's maintenance. It's, let's pave some roads, fix a bridge, pay the bills. And it's only these major decisions that usually you find out after they've made the decision.
Sure.
The township is not, they're not advertising these things. more than the minimum the state requires them to, which is to put an ad in the local paper. Like who gets the Daily Local? Who actually reads that? So they're not doing the legwork to notify residents of what's happening, and that's something I've been pushing for the several years that I've been actively going to as many meetings as I could. Why aren't you reaching out more? Why don't you have it on your Facebook page and your website? Why are you only doing the minimum you're supposed to? And I mean, the answer is because then they get to do what they want, and they've done what they want for years, and people just didn't show up at meetings. So it's not really their fault, right? It's our fault as the residents and as the voters, to hold them accountable, to understand what they're doing, and then to also voice what we do want and what we don't want.
Yeah, I say that all the time about the voter. The voter is blissfully unaware of what's going on, and I've seen the enemy, and it's me, because what it is they don't know, they don't take an action on it, and then when it happens, they go, "This was hidden from us. Why didn't somebody tell me?" Well, if you come to the township meetings, you would have heard it, but. Yeah. It's not up to the township to spoon feed you. I have to defend the municipality, because if they follow the law, they follow the law. I'm not saying the law is right. That they could say, well, you're obliged to do more of this. But look, as long as they're within the realm of it, they're within the realm. You have to put on your big boy and big girl pants, and you have to participate in your government, and that means going to listen to what they're saying and watch what they're doing, or. You know what? That back door is going to come open in your house, and they're going to steal all your silverware.
And I know you had Mike Petro on here a few weeks ago talking about the bag ban that they shoved down our throats.
Sure.
And they took a step back, which was great, because there was a lot of pushback on it, and they said, hey, we're gonna do a survey. And they did that, and statistically, most people in the township said we do not want this bag ban, and they rescinded it, right? I mean, they got rid of the bag ban, and that's fantastic. But why can't we do that for all of these major decisions? I'm not saying you got to buy a stapler for $15. Like let's make it a democratic process. But things like creating any new ordinance. I know up for discussion is a rental ordinance. We had the bag ban. And then major things like we'll talk about the municipal building. They keep saying come to the meeting, be a part of the process, and at least these supervisors and township manager, when you come to the meeting, they're rude and disrespectful, and they'll cut you off, and they just do what they want to do. So it doesn't matter if you come to the meeting, and that's a little disheartening until we get enough people coming to the meetings. We get enough people sending in complaints and calling and emailing. So it really is trying to educate people and make them aware of what's going on. And if it's something you care about, join the party. Like let's as residents, regardless of what your politics are, I think we all kind of have the same goals.
Yeah, exactly. I will tell you, when I started getting involved in politics, local politics, before that I was in federal politics, but the local politics, oh my God. Federal politics, you never know the people behind the curtain. But when you get to the local politics, I think we can agree it's a true blood sport, wouldn't you say, Shane?
Oh, it is. I don't know what it is about these people. I don't know what it is about them getting this seat in our tiny little township, but the egos and the narcissism are unbelievable. These people are not, I don't think a lot of them are even qualified to run a township, and they got voted in because they either had someone backing them that was already a supervisor, or they had the right letter next to their name on the ballot.
Well, that's a funny thing you say there, because as I look around in different townships, and I go to different township meetings and things like that, the average supervisor is not qualified. But the fact is, our system is set up that you can vote for who you like. And that's who they vote for, who they like, not who's qualified. Listen, I've seen parties put up tremendously qualified people, and they lose. Why? Wasn't likable. Wasn't likable. They have to relate to you. You have to be relatable. You have to make the people feel good about themselves. Elections are emotion driven, not logic driven, and people don't understand that. And for that reason, it is. It's 100% marketing. And anybody who thinks that people are wired different when it comes to elections is lying to themselves or lying to whoever they're talking to.
Right.
Because it just doesn't work that way. So let's talk about that. So East Fallowfield, I don't know a tremendous amount about the government down in East Fallowfield. You were talking about the municipal building. What's the story with the municipal building?
Several years ago, before I started really going to these meetings, they created a municipal building committee. Currently, they are in a pole barn, and it's like 70s decor, and it is small, and it's run down, and it's shared with a garage for the or garages for the public works vehicles.
But paneling, where can you see nice paneling like that?
Yeah, I think so. I haven't even been in the building other than use the bathroom and the lobby and then the township meeting room. But I know it's smaller than normal. But again, we're a tiny township. I mean, there are two admins, secretaries. There's a treasurer and a township manager, and sometimes a code guy. He's like part-time twice a week. So that's who works there. And then we have a police station, which is a ranch house.
I've been in it.
On a lot of property, and there's no lobby, there's no holding cells. They just have a bench that they can handcuff people to until they take them to Coatesville or Parksburg. And so we do need something. But there
you got a lot of cops.
What
do you have? Like 11 cops, 10 cops? What do you got?
For what?
For East Fallowfield, you got a lot of cops.
Oh, I think it's around. I don't quote me, but it's around 8 full time and 8 part time. Which is quite a few. And I know in one meeting specifically, they did mention. I think the chief mentioned, because one of the supervisors asked, that normally we have one officer working during the day and 2 working at night, like 12-hour shifts. I'm not sure how it works, but 16 officers seems like a lot for maybe 3 people a day. I'm assuming that the chief is always on call or is working his 40 hours, and I'm assuming the sergeant is kind of in the same boat. I don't know exactly how all that works. It does. I mean, for our township, it does sound like quite a few. I don't know how much the part-time work. Obviously, we can look at the numbers and find out. But it is and we do have for maybe 3 officers working at a time, maybe up to 5 if you've got on call with your leadership. I think we have like 8 SUVs sitting in the parking lot. I'm not sure how it works out. I'm not sure if they don't slip seat. But I know that's been a point of contention for a few people, as well as like why are these cloaked in all black with like shadow lettering? Why can't we have the old police cars that you can actually identify it's a police car if there's an emergency or you need help? So someone did bring that up at a recent meeting and said, hey, when we go get a new car, can we make it look like a police vehicle and not like a covert military vehicle?
I was there for that meeting.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So it is, so again, how much space do the police need? So kind of going through the process, they created this committee. There are 2 of the supervisors that are on this committee, which a lot of us think it's crazy that supervisors are on the committees because the recommendations from the committees go to the supervisors.
Right.
But the fact that 2 of the 5 are on the committee is just, and it's the 2 worst supervisors. I'm not even going to be blunt. But they're on that committee, and then there was the wife of another supervisor. So essentially, by proxy, that was 3 of the 5. If you count the wife of a supervisor as, kind of another. We're in this together, even though they don't like each other.
Sure. I tell you what. So hold on just one second. Hold that thought. We're going to jump to a commercial real quick. Got to pay some bills. We'll come right back to keep talking about this. Shane, thank you so much. We'll be right back.
Barry D is back with All Politics Are Local.
Already, I am back with Shane Cloyd, all-round good guy, East Fallowfield Township, talking what's going on in East Fallowfield. You with me, Shane?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we got blinking lights again, man. I tell people at the beginning of the show, don't call in. Now people want to call in. It's probably one of the supervisors you're talking about.
Oh, it might be, but I'll try to quickly go through what has been happening so we can discuss. But they created this committee.
Mm-hmm.
They got a grant. They purchased 10 acres of land, which is right next to the Doe Run Elementary School that's being built.
Mm-hmm.
And then the board approved for consultants to design a township building, which it ended up consisting of 13,000 square feet. And to compare it, the New Valley Township building is 16,000 square feet, which is crazy.
The Valley Township one's was an absolute castle, man. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Do they have do they have the road crew at that building also?
I don't even. I know the police are there. I don't know about the road crew. I haven't seen any equipment there, so I'm actually not sure.
Yeah.
And you know the plan in that 13,000 square feet includes 3 holding cells, a kennel for animals, and a $450,000 shooting range with 2 lanes, even though we live like minutes away from the Chester County Training Facility,
right?
That's in South Coatesville, Medina, around there.
Yeah, on Medina Road, yeah.
Yeah, and you know, even though it's almost $500,000, from what I've heard, the operating and maintenance costs of a shooting range with all the lead that's around there becomes astronomical. There are a lot of police stations that have shooting ranges that they don't even use them anymore because you can't afford it. Our township is very good at affording things because all you have to do is raise taxes, right? So once they announced they were doing this, I asked the township if they looked into what it would cost to remodel the current township building and to even put an addition on the police station and remodel that.
Sure.
Because the building they want to build is, the consultant said $8 million. There's no way it's going to be $8 million. I actually asked the board, can you show us what they've quoted or estimated before, and then what the final construction cost of those things were, right? Like that's an easy thing to come up. This is an overarching issue with this township is they do zero due diligence because, one, I don't think they're qualified. I don't think they're capable, but they also just don't want to. They just want to do what they want to do. And they said, no, we kind of thought about it and we decided we weren't going to even look into remodeling, right? They just want a new shiny ivory tower building. I'm not okay with that, right? I mean, coming from, the career that I've had, you do cost benefit analysis. You have options. You look at, what different things you can do. And then you report that to your stakeholders, which in this case are the residents, right? They're the ones who are going to be paying for this, and living with it. And they did nothing of the sort. So, there was a resident who came in and said, hey, what about using East Fallowfield Elementary because they're going to be shutting that school down?
Yeah, that's a cool location.
It is, and it's right next to the current township building, like right next door. And the plan is for, if we build a new building, that whole previous township building would go to Public Works, which my question is, if it's good enough for them, why isn't it good enough for the current township? So, like, why can't we just keep it the same as it is now? But they don't like that answer because it's not a shiny new building. So, this resident said, what about East Fallowfield Elementary? Immediately, the township manager comes back and says, the school district did a feasibility study, and it said it was going to be $13 million to remodel that school.
What?
Yeah. And
is it filled with asbestos?
It is a large school. It has a slate roof, and it's very old. But you have to think the motivation for the school district is to build a new building. So you want to, it is soup to nuts and I finally got a hold of the feasibility study. They're basically creating a brand new building and just keeping the bones. And then you have certain requirements for a school that you might not have for a township building or police station, that might add more cost to that. I'm not sure. But the district said we could do our own feasibility study. Maybe it's not $13 million for us to turn it into a township building and police station. Maybe it's 10. Maybe it's, maybe it's 20. I don't know. And the township doesn't know. But they kept trying to just blow it off. Like, no, we can't do that. It's going to be so expensive. And I have no doubt that if they built a new building, it would hit that $10 to $15 million mark anyway, with the way they want to do it. And knowing who's steering the ship. But even with a school that size, you have an opportunity to take an entire wing of that school and potentially turn it into like a small business or incubator space and start generating revenue. that's going to offset our taxes.
Sure.
Like, to me, that seems like a great idea. Functionally, will it work? Can they have their own access? I mean, there's obviously a massive parking lot, but, you have to have the secure area for the police station, the secure area for the township. But there's enough room in that school to have public areas, business, commercial area, and whatever else you need.
And area for expansion in the future.
Yeah. And again, and not that any resident in East Fallowfield wants there to be a lot more residents in East Fallowfield. That's kind of why we live in East Fallowfield.
Sure.
Right? We like the farmland. We like how slow it is. And we enjoy that it is a small community.
But even though you guys want to stay small, I get that, and you're zoned really well with your agricultural. I mean, you have 50% agricultural, whatever it is. But you know what? You got a lot of roads and people are passing through. And as Chester County grows, so goes the traffic coming through. You can't stop that part.
Right.
So you have more issues and more impact.
And this is a side note, but we get charged for local service tax, as a lot of people do. But the number of people that are getting charged for that in our township, I actually put a right to know request in and said, hey, can you tell me how many people are paying for this LST that live or work from home in the township? Because you're essentially getting double taxed. It's $52 a year. It's not a lot, but again, it's our township doesn't need that money. And they said, oh, well, we don't have that document, so we don't have to produce it under, right to know request law. But I know the answer is the vast majority of people are working from home in the township, paying taxes again on taxes we're already paying. It's just, there's so many things that don't make sense. And these are not the people to make it make sense, in my opinion. So I finally applied to be on this municipal building committee. And immediately it went defunct for quite a while. I don't know how long, but it's like out of nowhere. It's like, oh, well, we're kind of not doing anything, so we're just going to disband for a little bit. And then finally it kicked back up, and I'm like, okay, let's, I went in and did an interview, and I was with another gentleman who is the chair of another committee. And I asked him, I was like, when they went to go deliberate after the quote unquote interview, I asked him, I was like, is this how you guys interview people to be on your committee? He's like, this is, I did not expect this. It is a little above and beyond. But it's all, I think, it makes me feel special that it's for me. Like the questions they asked. And, so fortunately the 4 people on that committee unanimously said, sure, we're going to recommend that both of you are have the board vote for you to be on this committee. I was like, that's great, because one of them was one of the supervisors who he and I do not get along. But he said, yeah, I'm going to put your name in for this, to go to himself to vote for me to be on the committee. So then we're at this last meeting that I believe you were at, and they had a quorum. They had 3 of the 5 there. The two supervisors who are also on the building committee were not there. And they had no issue conducting all business for everything that needed to happen in the township until they got to the vote for putting these 2 new people on the municipal building committee.
I thought this was very
bizarre.
Right?
A volunteer position. And then, Al Wright throws up his hand and says, I want to table this because, I feel like we should have our full force here, to vote on this. And it's like, it just doesn't make sense, but that's par for the course.
Right.
With these folks. So now we're going to have to wait till the next meeting. And this has been, 6-8 months. It's been a very long time that I've been trying to get on this committee. One of the questions they asked me during the interview was like, hey, if there's private information that we don't want leaked to the public until it's ready, is that something that you can, basically keep a secret? And it's like, brother, I had DOD clearance.
Right.
I know how to keep secrets. But there's nothing that would happen in these meetings for this township building that would be private and not public information.
Right.
Right. And that's where, again, I don't do this for me. Right. I do this because I want the transparency.
Right.
I want the fiscal responsibility, and I want to educate people of what's going on. Like, why would you hold? I believe any document that the township has that's public information should just be put on the website. Why do I have to fill out a right to know request for information that is public? To me, it's just a way for them to push it off, send it to legal, or try and deny it. So I've definitely had my share of run-ins with right to know requests, but I think it's just senseless. So, like I answer that question essentially the same way. Like, if it's public information, it's public information. I don't know why you would want to keep any information private.
This is a common practice that happens in boroughs and townships and cities across not only Pennsylvania, but all across the country. It happens all the time. It's kind of scary. Got to wrap up. Have you got something you can say in 1 minute to wrap this up? And then we'll have you back on again, because I'm running up against the end of the show.
Yeah, no worries. This is just one of many things. I did also ask the township to look into bringing trash in-house instead of paying A.J. Blazinski, because, our neighbors, Valley Township and West Bradford, run their own. Their residents pay less money and they get more service. Why aren't we doing the same thing? Not that, they're competent enough to be able to run something like that. The supervisors, I'm sure our public works could make it work. They do a fantastic job, but there's just no motivation to reduce costs for residents, because all you have to do is, if you want to do more things, you raise more taxes. But the overarching thing is, do your due diligence. And if you aren't capable of doing that, resign and let someone come in there who can do that. Your job is to take care of this township and take care of the residents. And if you're not doing a good job, you shouldn't be there.
That's exactly it. Shane, thanks for being on here. I appreciate it. You're always welcome back. Will you come back on the show?
Absolutely. I appreciate you having me.
I appreciate hearing your views on this, because I'd like to hear more from other people in other townships. Thank you so much.
You bet. Have a good one.
Thank you. You too. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time where I have to wrap this thing up.
Thank God!
I would like to thank Shane Cloyd for coming on and delivering his observations on East Fallowfield Township, as well as Jack from 5 Minutes with Jack. As always, thanks to Eric, my producer here today on All Politics Are Local. Eric has been working on some songs for our new boy band, Terminal Mistake, but he seems to have some writer's block. He's looking for a word that rhymes with orange, and so far he's a bit stuck on how he's going to incorporate door hinge into a song.
Ain't I a stinker?
Eric and I are on the morning show together from 7 to 10 a.m. on Mondays and Wednesdays. Join us for news, weather, traffic reports, talk about the local happenings, and you, when you call in, don't make us call you.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
That's right. Hey, listen, there's lots of great shows on WCHE and a few lousy ones if that's your preference. Eric has Unleashed Radio, awesome show, and perhaps Hello Westchester. That's hosted by Kara Corradoni. And you need to tell your friends about us. Yeah, if you want to know what's going on around the county, you got to hang out with us. That's one of these things like what Shane's just talking about. You got to get the information. Remember, we're absolutely free. There's a few commercials from sponsors, but that's advertising from your local friends, the ones that provide the goods and services and the jobs to the area, the foundation of a healthy community and economy. So give us a listen. Give those businesses a listen. And most importantly, give those sponsors your business. And if you like my show, take the time to send a nice note to WCHE at WCHE1520.com. Some say my show gives them anxiety. You know what that means?
You can't handle the truth!
That's right, and thank you to the stunningly picturesque Donna Saul, general manager of WCHE. She's the glue that holds this radio station together. Last week, she told me how much she likes my show. She said, Barry, I've heard enough of your show to last a lifetime.
Not that there's anything wrong with that. Not at all.
Be sure to like and follow WCHE's Facebook page, where you can keep up on what's happening around the town and the county. You can also see updates and videos on both my Facebook page, which is WCHE, All Politics Are Local with Barry D, and my YouTube channel, All Politics Are Local with Barry D. Today's intro and outro music is There's Something I Should Know from Duran Duran. In 1983, that's 43 years ago, this song hit number 4 on the U.S. Billboard chart. Little known fact, this song was released as a standalone record. That song was not on an album when it was released. Yeah, right. How about that? Pretty crazy. Final thought of the day. As we go through life, accumulating stuff, how much is too much stuff? And at what age should we consider getting rid of stuff? Or if you have kids, should you just leave it all that stuff piled up in storage so that they have to deal with it when you die? Because half of it's their stuff that they left at your house when they moved out and were too damn lazy to come get it, or that it was easier to store their stuff with your stuff. And this will just be you exacting revenge on them junking up your place with their stuff. That's the thought of the day. I'm Barry D for All Politics Are Local. Thanks for listening.